Hi, it's the day before 2017's Halloween, and that means it's time again for This Week at TEGG, brought to you by me, Steve Foden, and the Archmage himself, Ed Greenwood.
Hello! And let me plunge right in. This week is Gamehole Con in Madison, Wisconsin, and we have a lot going on there.
Indeed, aside from being able to meet the Archmage himself, you'll be able to meet many a creative from the Ed Greenwood group as well.
As well as play 3 Dungeons & Dragons adventures. My first Mert adventure, At the Sign of the Drowned Dragon. My brand new, never-before-seen second Mert adventure, The Haunted Tomes of Durlusk. And an adventure written by Clinton Kronk, the champion of Ormpur and winner of the first round of Your Realms Tale.
Mr. Kronk's adventure is Rattle the Saber and Shake the Spear, but if you are planning on playing in any of these adventures, nearly all the seats for all of the sessions are sold out, so you'd better hurry to gameholecon.com/events before they are completely gone.
But these 3 Realms adventures aren't all. We also have wonderful giveaways in store. At a special reception on the evening of Friday, November 3rd at the Clarion Suites Hotel, we will be giving away digital copies of The Haunted Tomes of Durlusk, as well as its companion tale, The Book That Talked Back, written by me. If you can't make it, well, you'll have to pick them up later at the DM's Guild.
We will also be giving away digital copies of At the Sign of the Drowned Dragon and its companion novella, All Things Through the Bright Flames, as well as digital copies of Rattle the Saber, Shake the Spear.
And on top of all of that, we will be participating in a Folklore the Affliction seminar with our very good friends Greenbrier Games on Saturday, November 4th in the Convention Center.
If you can't make it to Gamehole Con, never fear. We will be hosting live streaming events throughout via Facebook Live and Periscope. Be sure to look us up on Facebook and Twitter so you won't miss a thing.
We will also be having special contests and giveaways just for the folks online.
Some of our creatives may have signed up for the Folklore the Affliction games at Gamehole Con 2. I had trouble saying that.
It's okay. They're just words.
It's
all
morning
words.
for me. It's morning for me.
Well, they're going to be doing that not only so they can play this incredible game, it's so they can truly get in the mood, as it were, for my new novel, The Whispering Skull, the very first Folklore the Affliction novel, of which we will also be giving digital copies away, along with copies of Folklore lore guardian Nicholas Fife's short story, Black Aleph.
You've been busy. A novel, novella, and a complete role-playing game adventure.
Busy, but busy on labors of love all. Plus, creating is exciting.
If you're interested in knowing more about The Whispering Skull, just keep watching. We have a short presentation to introduce the novel, the setting, and the short story.
And to everyone who has signed up for the Folklore the Affliction newsletter, and I hope all of you have, I hope those of you who haven't will rush out and do so. My goodness. Over the course of Gamehole Con, you, if you signed up for the newsletter, will be receiving your copy of Black Aleph and automatically entered to win a free copy of my novel, The Whispering Skull.
So if you haven't signed up yet, make sure you do. We'll put a link below the description box.
Next, we have a bit of an introduction for those who might want to get a taste of what all this Folklore the Affliction at TEGG is about. So, So as you can see, right now at TEGG, we're featuring Folklore, the Affliction, and the Realms.
And I believe we have another reading available for your first Mert adventure, All Things Through the Bright Flames.
Why, yes, we do. From my Mert tale, All Things Through the Bright Flames. Ah, hot spice stew. Yes, that was distinctly hot spice. Mert's stomach rumbled again, and he thankfully pushed open the bell-adorned swinging door the spell was coming through, into an eatery that was steamy, reeked of good food and flatulence, and was crowded with weary and unwashed Ormpurans. Sandals, loose-fitting cotton breeches, and over-smocks with sunhoods, besmirched with a lot of dust, muttering to each other over bowls of stew. Every last one of them contrived to look sidelong at Mert as he lurched to one of the few empty tables and waved to the woman who was cooking, serving, and collecting coins and tossing them back to a fast-moving array of children behind the counter, who were plying sizzling pans and sharp knives and spice shakers with equal practiced ease. And Mert contrived to wink back at most of them as he settled his still ample bulk into a chair that creaked only once in protest, drew his largest and most wicked-looking dagger, and started casually cleaning his nails with its point. Its blood-stained point. Think better of jumping the fat outlander, friends. He has teeth. And although everything about him said that coins were few and days of wealth and good fortune behind this wheezing old man in flopping boots, one of Mert's rusty bracers told him when magic was nigh. The other froze or outright prevented shape-shifting in anyone wearing it or touched by the wearer, as Waterdavian intelligence had known that doppelgangers were a persistent problem in all the Shining Sea ports, even back in his day, and the filthy and battered old gorget that guarded his throat bore an iron guard magic that would make things of metal pass harmlessly through him unless he concentrated hard to quell it. Having the Open Lord's coin and friendship had quite tangible benefits. Of course, the fact that he hadn't demanded his house back, snatching her very nightly bed out from beneath her shapely backside, might also have had something to do with that. Ale, sir? The proprietress had a pleasant, if gap-toothed and garlic-laced, smile. She looked like she worked like the proverbial whipped dog, but was swift and capable. She was good enough at running a back-alley eatery to afford a smart, silk and shimmer-weave jerkin with gilded cord gold piping that many high ladies of Waterdeep would hunger for on sight, and deft enough to keep all but a few stray food spatters off it. "Wraith, please, and a bowl of that hot spice stew that smells so good," Mert replied, matching her smile and holding up a hand that held a rather tarnished silver coin between two scarred fingers. "That much buys you a decanter," came the prompt reply, and Mert held out the coin. It was whisked away, as if the gods themselves were racing down out of the sky to snatch at it. And a bowl and a decanter thunked down on the table in front of him almost as quickly. Mert half smiled. He actually preferred Gerol, emerald-hued, cool and minty, something he much appreciated in this heat, to the ruby-red, fiery, and apt to be too sweet Wraith. But whereas Amber Sleep, the plentiful concoction that can bring on deep slumber in half a breath, could lurk untraceably in Gerol, just a drop of it turned Wraith a muddy brown. This Wraith was a cheerful red. The stew tasted as good as it smelled, and if it held any poisons, Mert couldn't taste them. Which was, he supposed, the most effective sort of poison. Desperate, dying men who were in agony were apt to do desperate things. He ate and drank swiftly, wanting to get it down before the inevitable interruption. It would be interesting to see how soon it came, as that would be seeing how good Tail's spies were, and the Dark Winds, too. After all, he and Tailmonder were old friends. Or rather, not really. But Laeral had asked Mert to go to the city of Saffron rather than one of her small army of already in Ormpur, and presumably much younger and more agile, spies and nightblades, thanks to his looks. Because Tymora, or Bashaba, had a certain sense of humor, Mert happened to be a close look-alike for Tailmonder's longtime trading partner, one Iltrim Glavrath, who, as far as that covert Ormpuran army could learn, had enjoyed an excellent and ongoing, even friendly, partnership with the leader of the Thaith until the castle gates curtailed his activities. As the smiling gods willed, Glavrath had died in Castle Waterdeep after being jailed for certain misdeeds in the City of Splendors. Mert had seen the painting of the man's face, something done for all castle prisoners, and the likeness was striking. Laeral had obviously seen it too. So, how long would it be before word reached Tailmonder, or Ralak, that the long-lost Iltrim Glavrath was back in Ormpur? Not long. The front door banged, the smile on the face of the proprietress turned from genuine to fixed on in an instant, and all over the eatery, diners suddenly and simultaneously discovered it was past time for them to be elsewhere, bowls finished or not, and streamed en masse to the kitchen and its back way out. The children busy there made way for them, but somehow found the necessity to suddenly have sharp knives, suitable for throwing, in their hands. "Why is it if it isn't my old friend Glav?" A hearty and genuinely pleased, unless it belonged to a very good actor, voice hailed Mert from right behind him. "Tail!" he grinned, turning in his seat, to face the man Laeral's spells had shown him the weathered face of, better through Tailmonder, who was smiling, but was also an accomplished actor, and stood with a dozen hard-faced and watchful men at his back in well-worn black leather, who sported almost as many scars as weapons. Some of these silent men were already headed for the kitchens, drawn steel in their hands. "Ah, but it's good to see you," Mert said, fixing his smiling gaze on the crime lord and ignoring his menacing underlings. Good, his first you and not ye, he'd remembered. If only he managed it every time. "I ran into a spot of trouble in Waterdeep, and I thought I'd never seen Ormpur again." "I heard." The head of the Thafe slid into the other seat at Mert's table, smile unwavering, but gaze keen. "Samuel said you died in their castle dungeons." "That's how their watch accounts for prisoners disappearing. They'd hardly want to admit to all those high and mighty lords that they'd taken a bribe to let someone go, so that those same lords very much wanted to stay in there, would they?" "So you slipped out?" I guess our Waterdeep dealings are done for now. For now, Merc granted, but not for good. Luckily for us, local talent pounced the moment I was out of the way, which means we can show up and persuade them at the right moment and reap what is rightly ours without being implicated in the slightest in what they did for its amassing. Which sounded plausible, even to him. Now, if Glavrath really was someone Tailmonder liked and trusted, he just might get through this next few breaths alive. He hailed the proprietress. "More wraith! And Tail, what'll you have?" "Oh," the crime lord said smilingly, "Urena here knows exactly what I like. Don't you, dear?" "Indeed, which is why I'm just leaving, Lord Telmonder," the proprietress said hastily. "I just had to bank the big hearth fire to make it safe to leave, unattended, and that's done now. So what I have is yours, and I'll be going." And as if by magic, 2 unsmiling Thaith men were flanking her, towering above her wrinkled old shoulders, and she was backing away with a low salute that Tail beamingly returned. Other Thaith men passed her retreating self, bringing decanters out of the back and heaping steaming bowls of hot spice stew. "We can talk about Waterdeep later," Tailmonder smiled. "I am absolutely delighted you made it out of those dungeons, particularly with all of the uproar among the masked lords we heard so much about. Giants in floating castles, lithids, lords murdered every morning. Interesting times indeed in the City of Splendors." As Mert agreed, "Oh, they were that, oh aye," what were no doubt Irena's finest goblets were set down in front of Mert and Tailmonder and filled with sparkling Ondanth. Tail had expensive tastes. And missed nothing. In this case, Mert glancing at the wine. "I remembered your favorite, Glav." Glavrath had expensive tastes, too." "All checked," one of the Thaith men murmured. "Roof, too." Tail nodded. "Good, we have full privacy, so I can safely ask. Glav, old friend, I find myself desperately in need of a new advisor, and here you are, back from the dead." Was that a barb? Not that it mattered. There was only one response. "Why, what a coincidence! I find myself desperately in need of being an advisor. Tell me more." Tail raised his glass. "I need a replacement for Hereth. I'm afraid Shaith happened to him."
And now we move on to storm talents. It occurs to me that people in Asmer probably have a lot more than just a catastrophe from ye olden times to remind them to be grateful for what they have, cherish their loved ones, and all of the other things behind the holiday fire frost.
They definitely do. Particularly the people in the Firefall, who are literally caught between 2 aggressive and diametrically opposed powers, the theocratic land of Religor and the dictatorship of Scalant. Both countries pursue their own goals and tend to ignore the sovereignty of the Firefold holds between them whenever it suits them to do so.
And then there's the little matter of the storm talents themselves.
Ah yes, the mists that enshroud the entire realm of Asma, going over land and water. Even the sky itself is no barrier to the storm talents. In fact, I have an excellent example of how the mists are regarded in a short piece right here, penned by another TEGG scribe. Here we go. Harsh breathing stifled his ears, wheezing along with the pounding of his heart. Sweat streamed from him in rivulets as he ran, the sun overhead exacerbating the perspiration stimulated by terror. He was close, too close to the border, but he had no choice. The Smite Serpents were close behind, and if he didn't want to die or spend his life in some 6-only new torture, running was his only option. Behind him, the hissing orders of the Spy Serpent in command slid through the trees like a miasma all its own, although the supporting war party was silent. Stumbling over a tree root, he sobbed out a curse and struggled onwards. He having lived a sedentary life up until now, using his gift to subtly manipulate the weights and balances of his grain business. He was not in the optimal condition for such exertions. How the Hierophar's dogs had found him, he had no idea, but found him they had, and now he ran towards the Storm Talons. It was the only hope he could think of, to get close enough to where even those dogs feared to tread the dreaded mists that wreathed all of Asmar. The tales flooded his mind as he floundered onwards. The mist twisted, and who they used to be, the fog stealing people out of their very beds, the ravages of the things that dwelt within. To even approach meant death, madness, or worse. But such was the exigency he was driven to. He became aware of cool, clammy air brushing his soaked skin, and the bright sun overhead had gone a muted pale yellow. Staring wildly around, he saw nothing but shining white, enfolding him as gently and as quietly as a tomb. Over the hissing of his pursuer, he heard creaks, rumblings, and growls from the mist, seemingly everywhere at once. He froze, his bowels loosening themselves at the realization. His intention had only been to run near the Storm Talons, but they had come to greet him. No one could predict how they moved, or when they would move, and he had miscalculated most dreadfully. The damp air caressed his cheek, promises of poison to come. With a shriek, he dashed back the way he had come, sobbing hysterically as the sunlight burst over him, and he ran and ran and ran until a turned ankle flung him flat on his face. "So here you are, cur." The sibilants were pronounced. It was the spy snake. "Quite rude not to listen to my master's offer." I'll serve, he cried, not righting himself, but instead turning from his position to grovel at the feet of the warrior that the spy snake had perched upon. "Just take me from this place. I'll do anything." "Most wise," the serpent said smugly. He was hauled to his feet, hands roughly bound with rope, and he was led off. As he was herded, he could not stop the weeping gratitude tumbling from his lips at the saviors who had appeared to rescue him from the Storm Talons.
Yeah, the Storm Talons sound like no fun.
Yeah, that's the point. And, speaking of horrible points, makes me think of Helma. But I haven't heard from Miss Freeman this week.
Well, I think she's busy. Her blog is still active. There's some interesting things on it.
Yeah. Since her letters began, I've been noticing some strange occurrences, too.
Shall we compare notes?
I think that's probably wise, but you first.
Okay, well, this is from her blog. Huntington, New York. A woman was admitted to a psychiatric hospital after having a nervous breakdown. She claimed that her doppelganger was following her and trying to take over her life. So I checked this one out. It would be easy to assume that she's just crazy, but there's actual video proof of it. This lady is walking through the produce aisle of some grocery store, and just a few seconds later, she walks through again. Only she's wearing different clothes this time. There's no records of her having a twin or even a close sibling, so where did this duplicate come from?
Nice. Here's something I got from Twitter. Las Vegas, Nevada. A couple have been tweeting about being saved from a mugging by a woman. What's unusual about this is that according to them, she picked up the mugger by the neck, shook him, and threw him across the street. Even allowing for adrenaline and the fact that it's Vegas, that's out of the realm of the ordinary.
Sounds like Damon's to me. Another one from Bev Freeman's blog. Okay, this is weird. Like, seriously weird. I've been combing the web looking for signs of really strange things happening. And let's agree, I've found some really strange things. But I never really thought I'd find some of that here in Illinois, but I was just at the local Starbucks, and I swear I saw this guy breathing smoke. Not that he was vaping or inhaling a cigarette. He would just inhale, wait a moment, and then exhale. Just two perfect plumes of smoke. I watched him do it several times, so it wasn't a trick of light or anything. What's going on?
A friend of mine alerted me to this one as it is disturbingly close to home in Toronto. What was initially thought to be discarded clothing was in fact the complete skin of an adult man. Someone managed to skin a human being without cutting them open. Lovely.
Your friend isn't the only one who's noticed. Miss Freeman also has Toronto on her virtual radar. A lot seems to be happening here. There have been reports of a bunch of murders at an archaeological dig. Even the police seem to be shaken by the savagery of the attack, liking it to something like that could have been done by wild animals. Except I did a search of the original reports, and there's absolutely no mention of animal attacks. So how do you get an animal attack that literally ripped people from limb to limb with no animals?
I think it might be time to get better locks.
And maybe an emote and an attack bear?
Or just move. Speaking of which, the Onder Emporium is moving to a new home this week, but you'll still be able to access it until then.
A new Onder Emporium, eh? That's a good thing.
Yes, and this one's been a long time coming. So if you've noticed, or you do notice, some issues with the site, they will all be fixed, and all of our merchandise, plus some new stuff, will be available by the end of the week.
Just in time for Game Hall.
And since Halloween is tomorrow, the time of trick-or-treating and shelling out, and Game Hall Con is hard on its heels, I thought it would be nice to have a pack of freebies this week.
And what might those be?
It's quite a list. This week, you can get, for free, 3 Helmaw short stories, my first Helmaw novel, and the first Mert Forgotten Realms tale.
Quite a list.
Yes. You out there, if you take advantage of these freebies, you'll get Baffled by you, Steve Bowden. Into History by Steve Bornstein. Dark Inception by Martin Trinar. Helmaw, Your World is Doomed by me. And All Things Through the Bright Flames, also by me.
Without having to buy anything first?
Nothing. You don't have to buy anything. However, unlike what we've been doing lately, which is simply letting the giveaway run all week, we are limiting it only to the first 100 customers. So, be sure to get there and grab yours before this offer, poof, disappears.
Like we're going to. Right now. Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you at Game Hall Con.